had this every week for the last 4 weeks. We've had this storm come through with all these tornadoes, and this one is
Yeah.
coming right through where I'm at. Like it's a center.
Oh,
So
wow.
so it got real still, like it does with a tornado. The rain was trickling, and it was just coming straight down, no wind. And the thing started going off and said you're going to have a tornado watch until a tornado warning, not watch, warning, which means it's actually. And is this thing working? Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
people are
on.
coming. So and then it started again, and so now it's going to go till 5:30, which is another 30 minutes. But I figure we're just aligning with the broadcast. Is what's happening. Let's see, what is this?
Did that earlier tornado touch down near
Um,
you?
not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. So yeah, we got what? We got 23 people in the house. This is
Everybody.
weird. Like I couldn't even get onto YouTube. I couldn't get onto Facebook. Let me make sure it's on. Yeah, there it is. Soul Speaks with
Onto
yeah.
Facebook.
Here we go. Okay, so it's all working now. How strange. How strange. Holy windstorms, Batman. That's what somebody said. Julia is glowing. You can't see all the comments. See, it's different now. So you can put them up here. This is the new
Yeah,
software we
you
have.
switched
Yeah,
platforms.
it's pretty cool.
Do you like Ecamm? Yeah.
Yeah, I can even put your name here. Boom. Here we go. This is. Oh wait, what happened? Oh, there
Don't
you are.
mess with perfection. We're
Oh no,
good.
it's going to be in your face. I don't want to have it there. Can I move that? Well, let me move it. Nah, it's okay. I don't want to cover you up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. All I can say is since the God, I look like hell. Damn, it's hard to. I wish I could just not have my face on there.
You look
But
beautiful, Todd.
thank you. But yeah, every
Well,
time we're gonna have a great show. For one thing, we're only having one today, which isn't normal. And number two, um, yeah. So ever since April the 1st, it's just been crazy. So what's happening with the planet? It's good to have you back and
yeah.
all that. I'm all
April
discombobulated.
1st. Yeah, April's a big month. I
Dude,
keep going to like put like report or organize it in a shareable way, and there's like
mm,
so much stuff. It's just happening. April 1st was a new moon, and then April 2nd, Mercury conjuncted the sun. April's studded with all kinds of planetary conjunctions.
mm.
Um, Saturn and Mars were the 4th and the 5th, April 4th and 5th. And I got a nice, so that to me, like that timeline, Saturn is very Chronos timeline aligning. So that was
What does that
that.
mean? Tell me,
What does that
what does
mean?
all this stuff mean?
Timelines? Or what does what
I,
mean?
I don't even know. I just know since April the 1st, it's just been crazy.
Well, we
Like,
had all those March, whatever, 28th, 29th, 30th. We had the sun has been
I know.
off. So we had that X flare on the what, 27th, 28th. And we're building up so that April ends with a solar eclipse,
Yes, I know.
April 30th.
New
So I feel
moon,
like
a
this is
new
like, there's
moon
a,
solar eclipse, right?
yeah, yeah, the new moon. Solar eclipses are always on the new moon,
Oh,
and lunar eclipses are always on the full moon. So that
I
the
didn't know
alignment's
that.
happy.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that. And did you see yesterday? So yesterday, I saw this from like three or four different people, and so there was a 6 hour period where the Schumann resonance just blacked out, and during those 6 hours, there is something fucking weird happening here. I'm telling you right now, really strange. I can feel it. Like I can feel the weather. You know, strange.
Yeah.
Um, I I had my hands on the table and it was like going bzzz, and bees totter loud out of their rooms. What does that mean?
What? Oh, I can't see any of the comments. Is that a
Morgan
comment?
said bees are allowed out of their rooms. Oh,
Bees?
well, I just remember what she's talking about. I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
No, 6 hours, the Schumann resonance went black. And then the reports were that all of the solar energy that was coming from the sun just stopped for 6 hours, and they don't know what it is. Like, there's no explanation.
So which one, the Schumann or the?
Well,
Because the Schumann
both.
resonance isn't coming from the sun. The
No, no,
Schumann
no,
is
no. I know. The
yeah.
Schumann resonance went black. Simultaneously, all the stuff that was coming from the sun just stopped. So Michelle Walling put up a YouTube video yesterday. I don't know if she put it up or she was sharing one that someone had put up, but I saw some other things that aligned with that. So like it was like everything stopped or something. So the thing about the bees, we were living in Hawaii. We were living on an organic farm, and the lady, she was a beekeeper. This like 80-year-old lady, really big German, tough lady. She was really cool. And so one day we walked out to the little dirt parking lot in front of the big house, and all the bees were in the bushes. You could hear them like bzzz. And I said, the bees have escaped. I just wasn't thinking. I
They
thought they
let
were
him
like,
out to go gather the
I thought they
pollen
were
and the nectar.
imprisoned.
Yeah, yeah.
Good God. Yeah, so KP7 was incoming. I had a moment. Yeah, there's just been a lot. Todd Medina, your voice is changing off and on while you're talking. At least that's what I hear so straight. Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on right now. I can feel it. I can feel
Oh, is
it.
this how I can? Oh, there. I just hit a button, so now I can see
Oh,
comments.
you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you have the same buttons I have then, or some of them.
I don't
Okay.
know.
So
There's
now
a
I
little
can
up
tell.
corner. I was like, I can't
Yeah,
see
now I can
anybody.
tell
Hi,
people.
everybody.
Now I can tell people that they can just
So are
click that.
these both platforms?
All the platforms. Yeah.
All the platforms,
Yeah.
all the comments come
Yeah.
right here?
Six
Oh,
platforms. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
So yeah, we have so much going on, but yeah, there's this thing with. Do you know anything about all of these CMEs and what is it, KP7s and solar flares coming to the Earth? I mean, there's been like just massive amounts since the first. Because I remember on the first, Pat Donworth, who puts up this stuff every day, there was like 17 in one day.
That what I noticed was it was March, like mid March, like the 20s of March is when it started. The solar ramp up, and but now it's just like, it used to be like a C class flare or an M class flare was like a big deal. Now that's just kind of like our new background, our new I'll say new normal because I hate that phrase, but it's like there's a lot. So I feel like these things, like the cosmic or celestial alignment things, they all work in conjunction with each other, and almost like an old fashioned. You and I went to school when like lockers had locks. Like the old fashioned like you had the combination lock, you twist and turn, and
Yeah.
like stargates, gates, this cosmic activity all work together in conjunction. They build upon each other, they layer upon each other, the codes layer upon each other to like new light codes are streaming our way. Like they unlock different keys for ascension, upliftment. And yeah, this year has been um it felt like January was like a wipe, and February was like, that gooey stuff that's in the caterpillar, like when the
Mm.
caterpillar turns to
Yeah.
goo before it becomes butterfly.
Mm.
And that was like February was like going back to our essential building blocks, like almost to an amino acid level, like cellular
Mm.
level, just goo. And March was like sorting and kind of reordering, if that makes sense, like putting things in piles of like-minded, like
Mm.
coding. And April feels like this, like whoosh, because the 2022 energies, a lot of us that work with light codes talk about the 222 being the builder codes. We're
Mm-hmm.
building new earth together, and with each action, with each exchange, with each thought, with each word. And so all this solar activity is really helping and assisting. It's like super exciting, potent, electrifying times. So
Yeah. My whole cranial, skeletal uh, system in your face is just like vibrating. My teeth are vibrating. My jaws are vibrating. My jaw, it's like up in my temples. I was talking to Morgan last night on the video, and so I was sitting here. God, this is so hard to remember everything. So I was sitting. God, when did this start? It started like the day before, and so I was talking to her, and then we were done, and it was a big kind of transmission. So I went and laid down, and I was connecting, right? I was connecting to do some self work. And I did it, and it was crazy because I see things, but I don't see things, I think, like a lot of people, like she does, probably you. And I saw this thing come out of my out of my body, out of my head, and it was ugly. And I've seen like, what we would call like dark entities and ugly entities, and I've merged with them, and I'm okay. They don't bother me. This one came out, and it was like a blob, and the expression on its face was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And it was me releasing an illusion or a program or whatever you want to call it. And it was explained to me that you don't ever release anything. A lot of times we think we release stuff, but you're not. You're transforming. But there are things that leave your space, and it was showing me that it left. I was like, wow, that's cool. I could actually see it. So then I heard this like big flapping of wings, and I had left this window just a little bit open, and I thought, well, a bird must have gotten into the room. So by the time I started to get off the couch, I heard it going again. I came in the room, and there was nothing here. So I closed the window. I thought, well, maybe a bird must have flown in and flown out. And then I'm standing in the room thinking, oh, this is a sign. And then it hit me like in the heart and in my whole body. And I was like, oh, this feels so familiar, like, what is this? Is this Franco? Right? And then I knew it wasn't Franco, but it was something really familiar. So I thought, okay. So I just took it in, and a lot of weird stuff was happening, like the body's buzzing, like right now. So I went and laid down again, and I heard it again, but it was in a different room. And then I heard it in another room. I heard it in the other bedroom, and I heard it in the bathroom. Then I heard it in this room again. I thought, oh, I'm getting up. I feel like I'm going to vomit. So then I got up, and I looked around, and I realized it was not anything in here, right? So that continued a few more times, and then fast forward to last night, I was talking to Morgan. I was telling her about it. She goes, have you tried to connect with it? I said, no, because I haven't even had like the wherewithal to do it, but let's do it now. So, I just connected, and then I realized what it was. It was an aspect of me from a higher dimension, an angel. And it was an angel that I had connected with a lot, like 10 years ago, like all the time, every day, a whole team of angels, actually. And so I'm talking to the angel, and Morgan's got me on, we're on camera, and she starts taking pictures and took a video, and there's like this purple thing appears on my face. She posted it, and all these lines and like, all this crazy stuff going on. And then this other lady, she blew up the pictures, and you can see like this female elemental angel looking thing right in the middle of my head, and all these other things. Like, this is the kind of stuff that's happening now, right?
Well, that's that I was gonna say the angelics, all the winged ones. So like, dragons, angelics, avians, bird, feathered serpents, like it's just been very much more active.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of us. So I'm reminded to, we've talked about Metatron and James Tiburon.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of one of his channelings, one of his sharings. In general, he was talking about it ties into the solar activity. So there's a positive ions or negative ions, or sometimes people call them cat ions and anions. Same thing, the positive and negative charge. So in like normal, the ratio between them is about 3 to 1. And during heightened solar activity and at sacred sites, certain magnetic. Why do people make pilgrimages to certain sites for visioning, or for, to see behind the veil and to see through to the truth. Um, so there was a researcher. Her name's escaping me. It's a female PhD, but anyway, she wrote this book about when that background ratio changes to 6 to 1, cations to anions. That's like where it is. Like a lot of the sacred sites have that.
Okay.
And then that changes our ability. It opens up our pineal glands, and it changes our ability to see to whatever the other side, or to see the angelics, to see the galactics, to see our own, to our own higher selves. So all this solar activity is basically, you're talking about the Schumann resonance, the ionosphere. We are getting charged and amped up, and it's activating all of our pineal glands. And some of that, like head skull pressure that you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
is a pineal it's like recalibration, really.
Yeah.
Because like opening's not even the word anymore, because we've all had open pineals for some of us decades, some of us years, months, whatever. But it's like getting recalibrated to be able to see, that each one of us see and hear and feel and sense different pieces of the puzzle, different parts of the equation.
Yeah.
So like the things that Todd's meant to bring through and gatekeep with, and bring to the earth, and the things that Julie were meant to see and feel. Like we all have our own pieces, right, and our own things we see. But so the solar activity, and that baseline of the Schumann resonance, all that being at a more elevated or a different ratio, is really allowing for some fantastical, amazing situations. Be it, light ship landing and visitation, galactic direct contact, angelics. For myself, and the angelics come through in lots of different ways for lots of different people, but that's just been up, and I've seen a lot of people talking about angelics. That communication has been very acute and active, and like it's all right there. So this time feels super. This April, May time, the whole year is going to be very special, but this April, May time is very heightened, to say the least.
No kidding. Like this is
So that's cool, that flapping, like that.
Yeah, I mean it was a physical thing. I'm telling you, it was physical. And
So
the
sometimes when star family, how do I put this well? Like, we as a species, as a globe, aren't quite ready for, like, I mean, some of us are. We're not quite ready collectively for the landings to be like
yeah,
in metallic ships that are going to land in our backyards, right? So there, in my experience, a lot of the time that this galactic communication comes through, it's like it layers into or codes itself onto either like a helicopter or a dragonfly or like an actual bird.
yeah,
Like they kind of use that
yeah,
earth plane thing to get our attention, and
yeah.
to almost cloak's not quite the right word, but
Well,
disguise themselves.
yeah,
Like you and I know, like, or the clouds or the different.
yeah, yeah. Like I have a friend here that I met when I first came to this town by synchronicity. I was going to say by coincidence. And her husband had transitioned. She's a very good friend of ours now. And I went to her house. I feel like I'm on mushrooms right now.
Yeah.
And even though I don't do that stuff anymore. So her husband had transitioned like within a year of when I met her. And she had a dog named Jezebel. Really pretty dog, big dog. And when I was there, well, the dog had been having seizures. And so she was all freaked out about it. And I was pretty lit at the time. Not that I'm not now, but it was just I knew something was going down. Like I knew, like he was already appearing to me and stuff when I was there. Well, he jumps in the dog several times that night. He jumped in the dog, and that was what had been happening. So it's kind of the same thing. He was like using the dog's body to get her attention, right? So like this flapping, I don't think there was a physical being in here, but it was the sound of flapping wings, and not little wings like a bird. I'm talking like big wings, right? So
Like your angelic self, or
yeah,
your,
and
your
Yeah,
Hold
and
on.
so this is interesting too because you said something earlier, which I think is connected. That's why I always know like you need to say it even if you don't understand what it means. So when I connected last night, it was first of all it was very easy. It was very familiar, and immediately what happened was I went from this group of angels that I knew very well, 24 angels, and then it just kind of took me in through the lineage. It was all blue angels into the ocean. The people of the deep blue is what I call them. Went into from there to Sirius blue, Arcturus blue. There was some Pleiadian, uh, um, Alpha Centauri, and then it was uh, the blue Kachina, the Hopi, and then it came full circle back. So what that meant, what I understood what it meant was, because like a lot of us, we wake up and we have these guides and we have these certain sensitivities, and then they go away, or they don't come around as much, right? But it was like the message was we're all online, everybody's back. Here we go, see, and so everything's been activated, like that. It's like totally blowing me away here.
This is the one I picked. It's like which one wants to come play with Todd?
Well, and the
Blue.
funny thing is, the first thing that she said to me when I connected with her, because I just remember this too. Her name is not Ariel is the way I remember the name. But the first thing she said to me when I connected was, "You remember, I've always put the blue stones in your throat. Each time that you were going to have some type of expansion, like with broadcasting, we'd stick a blue." And I said, "Yeah, I remember that." And now you're showing this blue stone. So no coincidences. Jesus
It's
Christ. What is that?
what's going on over
Oh,
there, Todd?
evidently Morgan's seen it. She just drew a picture of me. Can you see it?
That's your.
This is but I think there's something to that too, and as the individual goes, so goes the collective. I'm getting chills. She said it looks like a
Well, the
lady's
blue,
looks like a lady's butt.
yeah. Well, that's. Uh, you
So
have camel toe on your
oh my
forehead.
God, you're so funny. Uh
The
no, what I was
blue,
gonna
the
say is
blue
there's
avians, and go ahead.
okay, this is getting too weird. All right. Blue avians is the first thing that ever came into me galactic. Like I know I'm a freaking bird. I know I'm a blue avian. So that's like a big part of it or something. But no, the people talking about um I saw some comments on the pictures that she put up, and it resonated because it's like the third eye and the crown were kind of like coming together, kind of like that weird picture she just sent. Like it's just coming right together, and I could relate to that. Like because before I heard that sound when I was doing the clearing on the couch, I could feel like the energy on the right side, like my masculine side, coming over, and I knew it was going to center itself, but it couldn't center itself until it came down into my like through my nose, got in the center, and came up, and it like both sides kind of came together. Morgan had something like that happen a week before, and then last night the actual visual was simulating the same thing. So there's something about that that I think is a sign for all of us. That's what I'm saying. Are you there? Oh, you're gone. Am I gone? Are you gone? Who's gone? Let me see who's gone. Let's see. It must be me. I have a feeling. Is it no hiding from an open book? Who's here? She's frozen. Okay, Julie's frozen. Let me send her a note. See, this is what's happening. This stuff is happening, and it's not a coincidence. You're frozen. Oh, frozen. Okay. So we'll see what happens. Okay, it's me. I mean, it's her. Okay. Anyway, all this stuff that keeps happening. I've been saying this for a long time. Like these people that take pictures, and people say, "Oh, that's a camera lens flare and all that." It may be, but there's a reason that it's happening. Like, and Morgan said this today. She was talking about how the stuff that happened last night, this stuff is going to start showing up more and more and more. And I believe that. My son hit me up a couple of weeks ago, and I guess he just saw that first David Icke interview. And at the very beginning of the interview, if you haven't seen it, it's from January of 2021. We takes like 10 minutes for us to get started because it's the weirdest thing that's ever happened on the show. We've had a lot of weird things happen with him. And his voice started doing some crazy stuff, and he actually turned into 3 David Ickes. And he was even going, wow, this has never happened before. And he does like 1 or 2 shows a day, 50 weeks out of the year. Oh, she's gone. But yeah, this stuff is, and my son was just talking about how weird that was. I said, yeah, we have a lot of weird stuff like that happen on the show, but that was probably the weirdest. So yeah, I don't know what happened to her. She's oh, this is funny. Okay, so let's just improvise. Here we go. What is this comment? Yes, indeed. Even if we see it, glitches in energy, audio, and it's... Here she is. Boom. Back. Are you back? Oh, there you are. What happened?
That's funny. I don't know. I thought you were frozen, so I kept talking.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you talking about?
Well, the blue.
Oh yeah.
Well,
the blue
you
avians.
froze. It stopped when you were going like this and talking about the blue. So you were frozen like this on my screen.
You should have taken a picture.
I know I should have. So I was talking about the blue pearl. Have you heard of that?
No.
The cities. So in the Vedic lineage, in the like ancient yogis would talk about meditating, and then in the meditation they would encounter the blue pearl, which was really the blue ray. To me, has always shown itself to be like a wormhole or like a travel corridor. William Henry, that the ascension guy who talks a lot about the rainbow body and the halo around Jesus, talks about the blue avians. Like William Henry has a lot about the art and the iconography of the blue halo. And there's a lot in Egypt too, where the blue faced ones or the blue avians. And to me, the Blu-ray, like really what we're doing right now is like flipping the script of the Blu-ray thing, and Blu-ray as like this interdimensional, through time and space, wormhole travel corridor.
Mm. Yeah, and then you have the Vedas, the Hindu literature.
Yes.
Or whatever you call it. I don't
know. So then you were talking about the throat thing with the, so in the Vedas, they talk about, like they want, the Shiva takes all the poison. So there's the axis mundi, which is the pillar of the world, the core pillar. And that central core pillar, there's a snake wrapped around it, and it churns and churns the ocean of milk, sort of like our Milky Way. Or this is like their creation myth. And to take all the poisons from the world, Shiva takes the blue and puts it in his throat. So like the blue-throated Shiva is the transmutation power to take all the chemicals, poisons, whatnot, bad stuff in the world and transmute it. Like he makes an on-purpose move to pull that into his throat for transmutation.
Wow.
There's a lot. So for me, this like the blue thing, I have to bring in the whales, and because you went to Sirius B. So I feel like there's a lot of this. So there's water worlds, a lot of exoplanets, planets not in our solar system, are water-based worlds. When you talked about going into the ocean and your whole blue transmission, and so a lot of these collectives like code similarly and communicate to us similarly, whether it's like a watery planet in the Pleiadian star system, if it's a watery planet in the Sirius A or Sirius B system.
Right.
And these amphibian type cetacean whale activity And the whales for me have been super, super communicative this spring too.
Yeah, that was part of it last night too. When I went into the space of the people of the deep, I call them the people of the deep blue, because I've had
Yeah.
a lot of encounters. It's been a long time, but I've had a lot of encounters going through those portals and being in their presence. And then, but last night I saw, when that was happening, I saw the whales and the dolphins, and I knew that all of them are related, like you said a second ago. However you put that, like
Yeah.
there was a common thread, almost like if they had like a light language.
Like a language. Yeah. Yeah. They
Yeah, like a language.
communicate in similar ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I first woke up, it's crazy. Okay, when I first woke up, I was sitting in an apartment for a weekend, and I'd never seen any light language at that time. I didn't even know what a light worker was, and for 2 days, all of these letters, blue letters, were going across the ceiling. And there was somebody with me, and I think on the second, because I kept telling them I'm seeing these things, and they were very open. They were a medium, and they were like, I can't see anything. But the next day they could. But those were blue. Those were blue.
So I had a cool experience on, it was just last weekend. So my husband's father, his birthday is April 5th, and he turned 90 this year.
Wow, 90.
And so that was like that's a gather the people, the family. So we went up to where he lives, and he lives on the ocean, the North Shore of Boston, in Marblehead near Salem,
Yeah, I know what
Mass.
it is.
And so because there's a bunch of us there, we rented an Airbnb, and we rented the same place last year on the same weekend. And this year, it's so we just happened to, you like the universe conspires for greatness for everybody. For me, it turned out, so there's this like spiral staircase thing that we can go onto this rooftop deck that looks out over the harbor. So last year, when we were there, it coincided with Easter, his birthday. Last year, Easter was April 4th. And the whales made themselves known because a lot of the whales so the whales are real grid workers, grid keepers. The way that they work longitudinally, up and down, they don't go east west. Mostly they go north south.
Okay.
And the ones here, we get humpback whales that breed down in the Caribbean, Dominica, off the coast of Dominica, and come up this way. So they're here now. So they're in the waters that we frequent. And last year they made themselves super known to me because there was a few of them, like, there was even newspaper articles about they were in the bay near where we were staying. And this year again, it's cool to go through the cycle of things, as we're moving through. So last year I had noticed that there was this like Cetus. So do you know that term, Cetus?
No.
So there's a constellation, Cetus.
Okay.
Cetus is that's where cetacean comes from.
Okay.
So Cetus is the whale constellation or sea monster. So there's in the Greek and Roman myths, they would talk about Cetus as like a sea nymph or like a sea monster. To me, I've gone through with it, and it's like, whales used to actually have legs, and they were more land, billions of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So like back, a lot of the tales of like the Loch Ness monster or the, here like Lake Champlain has, every lake has like the sea monster. Sometimes I wonder if it's like a time slipstream where people are actually seeing back through, or maybe there's some creatures that are still there from that time. But anyway,
Could be,
or they're
like like they talk about
through.
the paranormal. Like they talk about, like, if you go to a haunted hotel and a lady in a gown walks down the hall
Yeah.
every night, and people have seen her, that's a residual.
So
Like
so Cetus has that overlay of like the sea monster or the sea serpent, so sea dragon or whale. So all those overlays together. So on the celestial sphere, the equator, the celestial equator, and the ecliptic, where those 2 points meet, that's the spring equinox.
Mm.
So in a lot of ways, like spring equinox is the beginning of the astronomical new year. So we just passed through that. And then March 27th, right around when the sun generally moves through the zodiac constellations, the ones we're all familiar with.
Mm.
But during when the ecliptic and the celestial equator are near each other, so there's a whole series of constellations that go along the celestial equator, the equatorial constellations, and Cetus is one of them. So the way that they've just mapped out the sky, they kind of make square shapes for where the zodiacs and where all the different constellations are. The sun like clips the edge of the whale constellation, the Cetus constellation, this year around the end of March every year. And this year it was March 27th. So when the sun got super active and was spitting off those C class, M class, and then the X class flare, it was in the whale constellation. Just for that, it's only for like, and it doesn't really go into the constellation. It just like kind of clips the edge of it. So that's like a big, like a lot of this whale coding. So that's a thing that was shown to me over the year this year. And I wasn't really aware of it last year. Like I saw the whale window open for myself last spring. And it's so cool to like have another whole trip around the sun and to be always trying to hone my skills and become a more aware, alert gatekeeper, masterful in the art and science of it. So this year it was like, oh, the sea, like I can see the whale constellation. So there's a whole Cetus gateway that we're in now. And so the sun moves through, but then the moon, Venus will go, Jupiter next, I think then Mars, Mercury went through already. So that like the planets move through the whale constellation. So that's a thing that's been happening in March and will continue through September. But then we're also moving. So the section of the sky where Cetus is right under Pisces, the fish. And
Mm.
then right over the next constellation over after Aries is the Taurus, the bull, which you and I get to talk a lot about. But I really want
Mm-hmm.
to talk about the when we have the eclipse that's coming on April 30th. It's very much coded with the Pleiades, and the planets will have gone through that Cetus gateway and moved over to the section of the sky that Taurus is in. So I know a couple of years ago, do you remember we talked about when Venus went through the Pleiades? That was 2020
Right.
at the beginning. Like we're really ending this cycle, or we're on the other side of the cycle that started 2 years ago in March, April of 2020. And then, so that was with Venus moving through the Pleiades. Then the 2021 in the spring, Mars moved through. Now this year, the first planet that moves through is Mercury. And Mercury will be conjuncting the Pleiades on April 30th, the same day that the solar eclipse is. And the solar eclipse, where the sun and moon sit in the sky, is right, like basically at the whale's throat. So the Cetus constellation, one of its, in that part of the sky, there's a deep sky object, or there's it's called Cetus A. It's a active galactic nucleus. It's like it's a whole nother galaxy that you can see. But these active galactic nuclei are things that it's like a galaxy that shoots these jets. Like, have you heard of a blazar or a quasar?
Quasar.
Pulsar.
Pulsar.
Those are galaxies that instead, like the black hole or the white hole at the center of the galaxy is like shooting off plasma. So the thing that's at the whale's throat in the Cetus constellation is called Cetus A. And the April 30th eclipse is like the sun and the moon are lined up directly with like the whale's throat.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And so my understanding, my limited understanding is, and most of this I've learned from you, is when we have whatever conjunction or the positioning, whatever's being accentuated, that the traits or characteristics of that particular celestial being or set of celestial beings is projected onto the earth, right? And I saw something interesting a couple of days ago doing some research, and I don't remember who it is, so I apologize for that. But it was basically talking about how in the Bible the reference is directly made to astrology, including, and this was where they would go back through to the more original or older versions, and they would, break down the etymology of the words to have it a more accurate meaning. And this included crossover into like Greek culture and even I think maybe a couple other ones. But what they were saying is that what they were citing as let's just say God speaking, like some of the phrases that he made in Genesis and so on, that these were created from that force for the purpose of bringing those energies onto the earth. And I thought, wow, I've never heard that before.
In all creation myths, the world is sung into creation. In the beginning there was the word in the Bible. And then in the Veda myths, it was Saraswati. Literally, is one of the goddesses that sings the universe into existence. This is like the throat chakra, the akasha, the sound element. This is what like a lot of us are doing more vocal toning, because it's really creation codes of sound.
Yes.
And the whales, so this tying back to the whales have this incredible, like, whale song is incredibly moving to the human soul. Like, to hear a whale vocalize, be it a mother or baby or across, time, and like the water is so conductive to sound. And, all the Star Wars, Star Treks all hold a piece of the galactic puzzle for us, right? They all resonate as true. Like, why do we get so into them? Do you remember that Star Trek movie where the whales like saved the Earth because they could communicate with that probe? Did you ever watch that one? The Voyager, yes. The Voyage Home?
Yes.
So there's a way that so if we're communicating human to human, right? We're in our human hearts, and we're communicating human mind to human heart. When we want to talk to the stars, we move up into our more solar aspect. Like, I have to become my solar self, because that's our local star, to talk to another star. And you work on your soul star chakra. And then as you go up your ascension column, your chakra column, the 8th, 9th, 10th chakras are for, communicating star. And then there's the galactic chakra. So when we're talking about whale communication, to me, it's galactic communication. And this Cetus A, it's like your galaxies communicate to each other. But then we have to move up into the galactic logos, or the galactic vantage point. I become my galactic self, like the core of the galaxy, not just a star, right? The birthplace of all stars. So there's a lot of us too that are this whole birthing thing. And yes, it's like Easter, and yes, Estar, but a lot of us that are doing that birthing work of light, the whales are helping us, but that is like super active this spring also. So I'm just saying that to anyone who's out there who's feeling that embodiment of being a birther of light. That's on. It's on like Donkey Kong right now for a lot of us.
It feels like it.
But that, so go back to the whale. So like the whales communicate galactically, and the way that galaxies communicate to each other.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Yes.
And there's something about the blowhole. The whale blowhole too has that same cationic. I was talking about that ratio earlier, the positive to negative charge.
Yeah.
In one of the things, so I've been trying to read and watch all the James Tiburon stuff I can get, because, as we know, he passed away a few years ago, and who knows how long his stuff's going to be up and active. Like, who's paying for that website? So I'm like a squirrel gathering the nuts. I'm trying to like get all of it onto my computer so I can read it anytime I want, right before it goes away. Like she's coming in. She's been coming in a lot too. You remember Salantra King?
Yes.
You know, she's had like stage. She might have. I don't know if she's left her body yet or not, but she sent out her goodbye message to everybody. Are you on her
I
mailing
didn't.
list?
I didn't. What's that? Am I on her
Are
mailing
you on
list?
her
No.
email list?
No. But
So she's
I didn't
either
know
she's
that.
left her body already. I
Or
feel like
she's.
she's been communicating a lot too, but she sent out a goodbye to everybody message. I know I'm gonna get to it. It was like she's sort of like my Franco, if you will.
Oh
Like
wow.
my work, her work. Like I always
Yeah, she was
really felt a
amazing. We had
kinship.
her on. We had her on. She was
I
amazing.
remember, and then
Yeah.
I did a one with her. I don't know, if, like a question answer about the golden solar discs.
Oh my
But
God.
she's another one that I've been. So
No.
the golden solar discs have been super active in embodiment too.
Yeah.
But so we'll go back to Salantra. She told all of us that she's keeping her website up till August. And so, like, if you want to read anything of hers, you have to, from now till August. And she doesn't want anyone to keep on her website going. She's just going to have it auto shut down. So another one, like every time I have a few extra minutes, I'm like, all right, download this. I'm like one of the record keepers, right? So all the articles of hers that I want to have, I'm copy and pasting into a Word
Mm.
document. But you know, it's not. We don't need that information. But somehow her transmission and her message just hit me super hard this year. You know, we've lost a lot of the great ones
I know.
this year, and it was just the way she expressed it, and just when I've had a question or I've like, you know, you have these like fantastical experiences, be it your avian wings, and you know, you go and Google things, and like her website would always come up for the wacky things I was trying to find. Like, so anyway, why did she come up? Well, all of it. So that I was talking what I want, the whales, how they move north to south. They, you know, a lot of times we talk about the parallels. Grid keepers talk about, you know, the 19.5 degree is the where the star tetrahedron hits on the Earth, you know, and the pyramids are there, and or if you have the dodecahedron, that's a whole nother system, you know. But a lot of times we talk about the longitudes, the latitudes, you know, around the 33rd parallel or on this parallel. The whales help us attune to the longitude lines, like that north south, a lot of the
Mm.
pole activity, because they travel north south.
The
And
whales.
we're
The
talking about a
whales.
lot of things, but the whales are like, they're
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
amazing.
To me, they feel like the chief, if not the chief, the one of the chief guardians. Which I think that word, the way I'm using it, would be a very broad term in terms of what that means. And I'm talking about the lines of communication that you're speaking of and how they communicate, as well as what they hold. You know, because if you think about it, I don't know. Did I tell you this the last time we talked? I was watching. I like to watch the nature, you know, like videos where they just show animals in the sea and everything. And they showed these giant sperm whales that were
Yeah,
longitude. Here we go, longitude that were north and south
they
in the
sleep.
ocean.
They
It's
sleep like
totally,
that.
and that was the one I was watching was like the first time they'd ever filmed it. It was crazy.
I, so I'm gonna, I don't mind crying publicly, but it's like such an emotional thing for me that happened a few weeks ago.
Oh wow.
So I told you that I went to Marblehead, but a few weeks before that, we just wanted like a little getaway for the family. So I brought my kids down to Mystic, Connecticut. There's an aquarium there, and we're like, they had a Friday off and blah blah blah. So we went down there for just a couple nights, and I was last time I had been to that area. It's also across from Montauk, the tip of Long Island. So I knew I could do some good grid working from there. I couldn't get all the way out to New York to the tip of Long Island, but I could get across from it. So I had like, you know, I always multi-layer like, oh, we'll do a fun kid thing, and then Mama Grid Worker will do her her thing in the downtime. And so we went there, and the aquarium had beluga whales, and it was this simultaneous like such a blessing and such a horrifying thing Like I don't go to Sea Worlds. I don't really like zoos,
Yeah.
for all the reasons. But these three beluga whales were there, and they like would come right. Like I had this like they would come up. They would like they would talk to you. They were like interacting, and I was their keepers. I was like, please, tell me something that will make me not feel like horrified that they're in this tank, right? Anyway, I was talking with them and interacting with them. But what I didn't anticipate is that Mystic is it's the third whaling capital of New England. So these coastline where I live is all about the overlay of like how humans have treated whales. Like I thought I was just taking my kids for a little weekend adventure, but it was like this huge. And we talk about the sperm whales. So while I was down there, I was like, and by the coast there, and there was the Maritime Museum or the whaling museums, and it was such an emotional. As someone who codes with and is devoted to whales, I was like, oh, I have to like peel off. A lot of times grid work is like peeling off that layer of um, shitty shit that humans have done to the earth and to the
Mm.
whatever. And not that we like play with that so much, but it's just like it's there on the landscape, right? And like the machinery and the harpoons and like the bloody, the boats are there. And I was like, it was so overwhelming to me to be down there. And it was like a beautiful thing too. And I knew it was like the right thing to, but you're talking about the sperm. So I was reading a lot about sperm whales that weekend and why they were so coveted. And like that spermaceti, like it just goes back to this whole blue thing, or like when you froze here, like that bulb of the front of the sperm whale is filled with that oil that was so coveted. So one of the articles I read was like harvesting light, like those ancient whalers, or not so ancient, like 100 years ago, they would go and try to get that spermaceti, the whale oil, because it was before we had kerosene and before we had whatever. That's like it was whale. It was a source of light for humanity,
Wow.
and like that piece together, I was like, oh my god, we're basically harvesting their pineal, like so that they have whale scientists have figured out, and they still don't understand it all, but that the sperm whales have this huge like cavernous thing of this oil, and it's basically an acoustical instrument. They have this other flap down by their, throat thing that's like flaps, and it like makes this sound, and that's how they can conduct sound. But anyway, I know I'm sort of talking about a lot of
No,
things.
I'm
That
digging
like that
this.
harvesting of the
Yeah.
like it's like oh like that article that was harvesting light. I'd like put my kids to sleep and I'd just be up like reading these things, and it was you know
That's
like the
crazy.
emotional concept, the emotional impact of it all. It's like
That's
oh
crazy because of the metaphor and the real and the literal and the metaphoric one and the same. Like the physical reality of a well, how else can you say it? It's taking their life. Because that's immediately what I thought when you said that and motion to that. God, I'm getting downloaded like every 2 seconds on this show. But like I immediately thought of pineal gland,
mhm.
right?
It
It's
is
the
that like
pineal. It's the
go
pineal.
read a thing about the sperm whale that the cavern of their like that oil, that's like oh I'm like that's their pineal juice, their
Mm,
mojo. So
jeez.
what we do, in any of these humans behaving badly scenarios, there's so many of them, and I was sort of prepared for myself to go when I usually go to that part of the land. I hear more from like the indigenous elders. I was sort of prepared for like, a native, and I was really, really close to that sacred site that's called Gunjiwamp. Have we talked about that?
Mm-mm.
It's in southern Connecticut. I didn't go there because anyway, we didn't have time and there was this big snowstorm coming and we wanted to beat it home. But you don't have I don't have to like go into the land to like feel it. It's basically like the Gunjiwamp site for the grids here. It is like this axis mundi. It's like the central spot where it's a hub spot, like Montauk, Boston up here, America's Stonehenge, like a lot of the chambers, Mount Naham, and just over near the Hudson Valley. Like they're all the sites are interconnected. anyway, I'm going to bring it back to, I was also, I read and listen and to things a lot. I came back and read something from James Tiburon, or I've been watching, because I don't know how long his YouTube things are going to be there, right? So I've been watching, a couple each week. And he was talking about Chaco Canyon, that sacred site?
Yeah,
Chaco
I
Canyon.
watched that. I watched that program on Prime Video.
So Chaco Canyon being a blowhole. And when
Right.
he said that in his video, I was like, oh, blowhole, like the whales. So there's another reason why whales draw us in. You know how we all like being, or those of us that live near it, we like being by the ocean because of its negative ions. It's like calming to our nervous system. Whales are like that too. Sacred sites are like that too. So this links back into the solar activity and the ionic, the Schumann resonance measurements. We are in this time where like all these things are happening, like the planetary alignments are one unlocking key. The solar flares and the influxes and the CMEs are another key. These eclipses that are coming, so there's one April 30th and one May 16th, solar and lunar, and they're all like acting as these activators for all this information and all these codes that are coming through right now.
Is there? I mean, to your knowledge, is there just like an amazing uptick in these types of things, regardless of where they come through, be it eclipse or planetary formation or?
It's just my son's voice, my 12-year-old. He's like, okay, mama, you have another one of these like super rare, only occurs every 2,000 year solar events, or this astrological events is happening again. You have one of those a week, mom.
Mm. That's what I'm saying. Is it like?
Yeah.
Is that legit? I mean, is it? Because I
Are
mean,
we
you do.
having more of them right now?
Yeah,
Is that
like
what you're
is there a greater frequency of them? I mean,
of which thing?
of
The
any of them,
eclipses?
all of them, everything. Well, I know we had the period of the four. What was it? What was it? Four blood moons. Like this would go back.
We're this I'm seeing the potent corridor that I'm seeing bookended is the 2017 to 2024
mm,
corridor. And
mm.
that's these two the great American solar eclipses that they're called that crisscross. One was in
Oh
2017,
yeah, yeah,
one was
yeah,
in
yeah,
2024, and that's August April 8th, 2024.
yeah. And you
So
said that
in the
this.
middle of these,
Yeah,
all of we're not having more of them, but they are much more powerful. We're not having more eclipses than
yeah.
usual,
They're like they're.
but the ones that are happening
Yeah.
are capturing our attention. They're
Mm,
impacting us much greater, and they're accelerating the ascension for sure.
yeah.
So are we
Now
having
that.
more? Not really, but we're finely tuned to them. We've caught up to them. How about that?
Yeah.
More of us are paying attention to them more. So that is what is the act of gatekeeping we talk about. It's like it's you being aware, like taking the information stream from the cosmos through you into the earth, into the human collective. Just paying attention is how we do the thing, right? Just
Mm.
how you doing there, Todd? You look a little queasy.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just getting like downloaded the entire time hugely. And I
Uh,
remember you said that I think the one that's in 2024 passes right through Arkansas.
Marilyn Biggers is on. I haven't heard from her
I
in a
haven't
long
seen her in a
time.
long time.
She's your old school buddy.
Maryland, we're having a Soulogy Fest in Arkansas on September 23rd, 24th, and 25th.
Um, so Candace wrote, Candace, we're not necessarily in the Kali Yuga anymore. It depends who you ask. But we're in the that's not true in my experience. We could talk about that off show because I don't have enough time to go into that. But
Oh, we have time.
the Kali, no, I don't have enough time.
Oh, you don't
I
have
have
enough time.
I have a hard stop. Um, my but we're in this like the descension and ascension phases. We talk about the yuga cycles.
Hmm.
That we're more in on the upswing.
Right.
That is what ascension is like. We're moving into different parts of the solar system is moving into denser parts of the galaxy, more dense with light.
Yeah.
and things are
More
coming
dense
our
with
way.
light as opposed to where we came from, which is more dense with like a
Or just
slowness.
more absence of light.
Yeah, or absence of
Whew.
light. What time did your hard stop?
Uh, yeah, I promised people I'd be home at 7:30. It's 7:07, so I have like 15 more, 10, 15
Oh, are
more.
you that close to home?
Yeah.
Okay. I am so here. Let me put it up here. I think we have time just to dive into
Well,
it a little bit.
I don't have to. I'd rather. I mean, that's a cool thing. Maybe
Oh,
Candace and I should.
you want
Yeah.
to
I mean, like, because I can't.
go
I
into
feel like I've
depth?
already been talking about like like bring it. It's a whole nother um,
Yeah,
human interpretation. You know, there's lots of different interpretations of cycles and
yeah. Maybe
lineages.
we'll work something out like in
That would
two,
be great.
two,
That
three
would be.
weeks out. We want to do that.
I feel like the eclipse stuff and the whale stuff, like all of it.
The, the well stuff is like crazy. Like every time you say the word, it's just like blowing my head up. You know,
Well,
it's like I don't. I don't.
your spermaceti is a flowing, sir. But that weekend was the trip.
Oh,
Like
that's
some
funny.
things impact. You know, we all have our things that we do right for the planet and for service work, and some things have just this lasting. You
Yeah.
know, it takes days or weeks to recover from that. I'm going to shift back to my last weekend in Marblehead. So on the 4th and the 5th of April,
Mm.
we had Saturn and Mars
So,
conjuncted.
so,
So to me, that was, what we're experiencing right now is the dissolution of war timelines on our planet
yes, I
and
like
in the
that. Keep talking about that for your.
so because if we think of Mars as the ruler of war and Saturn as the ruler of time, so those two were together, and I mentioned that we rented an apartment condo place.
Okay.
So the Marblehead is known as the birthplace of the United States Navy. So there's a heaviness in the harbor there, shall we say. It's like that's where my husband grew up, but
Okay.
every time I go, be it the Salem, I always thought it was like the Salem mass energies, that whole witch situation. Um, but there's also the timelines of like, oh, this is where the warships were built and went out to sea. So there's that overlay in the harbor there. But what was super cool last year when we went to stay there is we were looking and like the harbor, I've never gone at this time of year. So this is a gift that my father-in-law gave to us, having his birthday, April 5th,
Mm.
is it was before the season and none of the boats were out. And how the whales impacted this is that the right whales were spotted. They were coming pretty close to shore. And right whales are very endangered. There's only about 400 on the whole planet right now.
I saw pictures of them the other day. They're beautiful.
They are. And they have two blowholes, like right and left side. So there's like a way that they help us integrate the hemispheres. But so all the ships were not allowed to go out to protect the whales. So the harbor was quiet. Like this place, usually at a sunrise, a harbor is like of a fishing village is a busy, loud, smelly. There's lots of activity.
Mm.
If I went there next week or if I went there in May, it would be a whole different thing. So we had cloud, rain, cloud, but then the one morning I woke up like 4 in the late 4s and I went out onto this rooftop deck and I had the place to myself. It was just glorious. I put a
Wow.
bunch of pictures on Facebook. I couldn't help myself. But I was because I had the vista, I had the lighthouse and the sun rose like right into the lighthouse. But before the sun rose, I had Venus and Mars and Saturn all right there. And it was like that unraveling of the war timelines, sitting at the harbor that was the birthplace of the US Navy,
Mm.
and all those overlays and having it peaceful. Like I heard one other lady go down and get into her car and talk to somebody. But it's like it's to have the pun intended, the planets align
Right.
for me to be out there, for it not to be cloudy, to my kids still to be asleep. Nobody bought, like, just to have the place to myself. It was the most glorious 2 hours, 3 hours I've spent in a long time. And watching the sun come up, and it was pristine. But then I realized, we drove through, there are tunnels under the Boston Harbor that we
Right.
come home through to come where I live. And it took, and I was just like out for days this week. Like I couldn't really function or do anything. My son was quote unquote sick and home from school. So he and I were just kind of home regrouping. And
Mm.
it like took me a bunch of days to realize I'm like, oh, that was a lot. Like that whole, we won't get into the global geopolitical politics or whatever, but the war timelines
Yeah.
that have to, like, how do we as a species unravel these war timelines? Like how do we really do it? Maybe like we all get like the 2 hour peaceful moments like what I had, but it really meant something when I was sharing it to my friends. I was like, there's no way, there's hardly any other times where that harbor would be so quiet at sunrise, because normally the fishermen are, that's
Yeah,
when
I
they make
saw
their
that.
noise.
That's why I saw the picture, because it was an article saying that they'd shut it down because they were in the bay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just like the whales basically gifted me that time
Or
of no boat.
you were their
Yeah, we
collaborator.
were communing together with
Yeah,
all
you were
that.
their collaborator.
And then my father-in-law, I don't want to share much of his personal information, but he's turning 90. He has dementia, and the timeline slippage, and he's a war vet,
Mm.
and he like for his birthday party, like so basically he's telling us stories. Mostly what we talk about with him is, way past. So
Right.
the war, how he was at camp when World War II started and the bomb went off in Hiroshima, how he was
Wow.
where he was in the Korean War, but he was stationed in Germany. But just like, so he's telling war stories, and he's slipped through streaming through time as he
Right.
tells us that. And just that whole thing was just, anyway, that was my
God,
last week.
that was powerful. That's a good question too. How are we going to bring that into equilibrium? Maybe it's going to be what? Maybe it's going to be um, many people, for many people, finding out what's really behind them. Like it's really not about, for instance, I'm not saying this is the truth, but I think it's probably not far from it. It's not about Putin. It's not about Russia. It's not about the U.S.
Well, right.
It's
It's
about
in, yeah.
the same old stuff that's behind everything.
And it's not sending guns to the other side.
No.
It's not really the solution to
Well,
peace.
yeah, I mean,
Like
this,
it's like, what is the how do we code in peace?
yeah,
And like I think that's the top of all of our human, should be at the top of our human collective minds now. And
yeah,
there's some way that the Mars Saturn conjunction, so if we put it to so what's going to happen with the planets before we get to April 30th. So this is like the buckle up month, right? So we haven't even talked about right now we're sitting in, and tomorrow is Jupiter and Neptune alignment.
what does that
When you
mean?
were talking about your dream state, so many people are sharing about that one. It's Jupiter and Neptune are both. Neptune is at home so they're in Pisces, which is that happens every 13 years. I'll just list them all instead of saying what they mean. So April 2nd had Sun and Mercury conjuncting. The 4th and 5th are Saturn and Mars. Tomorrow, the 12th, is Jupiter and Neptune, the planets conjuncting. The 18th is Mercury and Uranus. And the 30th, so I mentioned that the Sun and Moon are going to be near the Pleiades, but also Venus and Jupiter both conjunct each other, not necessarily near the Sun, but they're nearby. So on April 30th, we have a Venus Jupiter conjunction, a solar eclipse, and the Sun and Moon are sitting like pretty close to the whale's throat and on their way to the Pleiades. So I'll share articles as we go along through April. Like I can't like, it's basically like there's a lot of this cross coding. These like planets are getting together. You know how when you do a your own soul alignment, and you're working to gather your 12 12-strand DNA and all of your soul aspects together. You can use each planet to like stand in for one of your DNA strands, if you will. So if we use the 8 planets, the larger planets, and then you can use either the asteroids or the dwarf planets, again, to code on. We get there are 12. There are 12 celestial bodies in the solar system if we count the dwarf planets. And when they come in code exchange, it's like, like what you and I are having this conversation, like they exchange information or code, and the way that they dance around each other in the sky and they build up to the eclipse. And then the moon, the planets right now are mostly of them are morning planets. Have you noticed that? There's not a lot to look at in the evening, right? You have to get up 4 a.m., 5 a.m. before the sun rises. And if you do, you can see Mars, Saturn, Venus, and Jupiter. So tomorrow, before sunrise, it's like I think it's 5 a.m. that maybe Jupiter rises. Neptune is not a naked eye planet, meaning you can't usually see it,
Right.
so with just your eyes. So you need binoculars, but you'll be able to see Jupiter tomorrow morning. And next to it is Neptune. And I'm just going to defer to all the great sharers that are sharing.
That's a lot of conjunction for 1 month.
It's a lot of conjunction for 1 month.
You know what it sounds like to me? It almost sounds like a merge.
That's what I see it as, like the 12 aspects, right? The 12-strand solar DNA is all coming online.
So hang on, because I know you have a hard stop. But yeah, we I don't know how this slipped through the cracks. We were getting together like every 4 or 5 weeks, and I think now, especially now with this stuff, all this stuff coming online, I don't even know what you just talked about. But my whole head's exploded. No, I get it. But this is something I recognized, with the broadcasting and the collaborations, and this is why, I was encouraging you because, and I've seen it in other people, and what it is, it's like there's certain things people are tapped into that, it's time. People are like, even like, like talking to Morgan 6-7 years ago about Helios Gamos or, some of that stuff, people weren't ready. But there's something going on now. And I think part of it's the telepathy because it's very code activating, right? Like there is no doubt there's a direct relationship between the celestial bodies and us. So that in itself, it's like us being unconscious and then becoming conscious creators. So like it's one thing to be at the mercy, so to speak, of that because you're unconscious, but there's another part of us that is innate that knows we have a direct relationship and that we can actually utilize that consciously into creating, the life that we want individually and as a whole. Yeah.
Can I read you? I pulled up a thing from James Tiburon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do whatever.
Okay, so this is a channel. It's the 2015 bio shift. But it says, "Dear ones, the changes taking place on the Earth are prompted by changes taking place in the cosmos. Every celestial body, every planet, star, and moon in your galaxy are in harmonic symphony in support of the Earth's planetary ascension. We have told you before that your religions have excluded the science, and the science has omitted the spiritual. In the new Earth, the two must join in full circle. And so, dear humans, the following channel is teeming with elements of that termed spiritual, and with that termed the scientific. Your scientists are beginning to recognize that there is intelligent design in the cosmos, and your religious leaders are beginning to acknowledge that you are not alone. There are visionary academics and writers leading the way in revealing more to you about humanity's true origins and history. And we tell you removing the shadow is tantamount to achieving clarity and wisdom. The cosmos is shifting, physics are expanding. You are discovering that the laws of physics, which you thought were written in stone, are shifting and expanding. Should I keep going? The expansion is multidimensional. And moreover, masters, you are discovering that thought, divine thought, is the creator of all that is. And you are an integral part of that. In the new earth, even the most diehard mainstream scientific think tanks are being invaded by a younger generation of more diligent, unsuppressed researchers who are aware that there is intelligence in the cosmos, in the changing order of physics. Not just the realization that you are not alone, but in the knowledge that the creation around you could not be random. And it goes on and on. He talks about the crystalline shift and that the magnetic portals that exist on the planet, collating the sun's massive energies. And anyway,
this guy was amazing. He was amazing.
Well, I have to tell you that his last few gatherings, the ones that I wanted to go to in 2018, and I'm not sure if he actually had the one in 2019 because his wife passed away, and then he passed away, or he died in 2020.
Where was he at?
But so he had, this might sound familiar to you, his last several things were in Arkansas.
That's what I thought.
On the September equinox.
Yeah, that's what
so we're coding that in, like Todd Soulogy Fest is like picking
September.
Up the.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
And I've been seeing like that the whole like one portion of what Soulogy Fest could be is like bringing a lot of this cosmology.
Well, of course, I tried to get you last time because I just know that yeah, wow, what's going on here?
It happens to also be my birthday.
When's your birthday?
September 23rd.
Holy shiitake effing mushrooms.
You're basically having a birthday party for me in Arkansas. I guess I have to
go. You better. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. But anyway, this whole, the cosmos, like what, yeah, we could talk a lot more about that. So I'm getting better at how to share this stuff.
I get that. With
the planet and with, so I've seen it like, so I'm calling what I do now, like it's celestial gatekeeping. And there are these gates. The Cetus gateway is one. The Pleiadian is gateway. That golden gate in Taurus is the next. And then there, then we'll get you're talking about the beehive. The beehive one comes in June and July. And there are these gateways of the stars that, and I'm getting better at knowing now that I've been doing this for like my 4th, 5th year on purpose. I'm sure I've been doing it for lifetimes. It's like, oh, but it's immense. It's really hard to even know.
No, I can tell just from the collaborations we've done. We've probably done 20. And I can just tell because I remember when we first started diving into it, like I just was like,
what the freak is she talking about? Yeah.
But I knew I was able to do it, and stay with you. I just had to like stop you every, it's what?
Yeah.
So, okay, we're definitely coming back on tonight. We're doing something. I can tell you that. So.
You are?
Yeah, we're gonna come on. We're gonna come on tonight and do something. I'm not sure what.
Do you know?
Not sure.
Is it Robert Evans that you've had pop in?
Yeah.
Do you know he lives like 3 towns away from me?
I told him to go find
I know we've communicated.
Okay.
So we
did. Did you see that thing we did the other night? It was crazy. It was so cool.
Saw that you did it, but I didn't get to watch it.
It was so. That's another piece like your piece.
There's this I know piece, we're gonna he and I are gonna get to meet in the human human particles.
You guys need to.
We're getting in a room. Yeah.
Getting in a room.
Well, I mean, we live. No, we're gonna be in the same actual room.
You're getting a room. Holy shiitake mushrooms, man! Too much information. But no,
that invite him over here to inner space. We can play with my sound tools.
I would love to go to Boston. I love Boston, and I would love to go, up that direction and just,
So I'm gonna say, so after all that, the U.S. Navy and when we came home, we went under the tunnel that goes under Logan. You remember the big dig they did in Boston? So it goes under the harbor. Yeah. Sometimes, it's like there's a lot in there. But my kids we got home, and then a few days later, we had a lot of storms like what you're having now, hail and this and that, and then there's a huge rainbow. I shared it on Facebook. The huge rainbow over the Boston Harbor.
I think I saw that.
And that's always like to me, I was like, oh, that's like a sign of like the energy has shifted.
Yeah.
It's like that job
Man,
well
the
done.
Northeast is powerful. I mean, it's a powerful, powerful quadrant of this earth. It
It
is. I mean, it's
it
just,
really
it's
is.
huge. And those, they look like dense cities, and I guess in some respects they are, but man, they carry tremendous
Well,
energy.
it's like the I see it as like the spiral. It's like the filtration system
Yeah, yeah.
between all the things. Todd Morgan said, "Wait for me. I
I
want to
will.
come."
I will wait for her. So, okay,
Thanks, Todd.
I'm going to sign off of the live stream, and
Bye, everybody.
hang
Thanks
on.
for
You
playing with us.
don't sign off yet.
Okay.
Okay, we'll be back and do something tonight. Okay, let's